future belongs to the curious. This is an act of discovery. Come and experience it with us in Assoc and discover your creative potential. This is your path. This is your journey. You decide how it's going to be. Time to free your curiosity that's always in you. Come and experience it with us in Assoc and discover your creative potential.
Okay, so nice to meet you all. I actually only see my colleagues. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Martina. I studied interior design, and then I got specialized in yacht and vessel design. And I'm currently working in the market of campervans and recreational vehicles. So basically all vans that can be converted for other uses. I tried to make a short lesson as an introduction to what makes us feeling at home and how this thing must be reflected when we design a house, especially if we are working in very tiny houses and very narrow spaces. And also when we have to deal with vehicles that needs to be, of course, small because they have to move. And so even the furniture are different from the one of a house because of course, we have to take care of the lightness of the materials and we cannot compromise the function of the vehicle itself. So as you know, especially with this new situation that we had to face in the last year and a half, we learn how to live our houses more and more than what we were habit before. We started to use our houses for any other activity that we used to spend outside, from the gym to work, to host friends, since other places that we used to attend were not available. So I'd like to share my screen so that you can see some pictures. And wait a second, share screen. Okay, it's working. Let me know if you can see properly. Okay. Stop.
We don't see it yet.
It's a bit slow, but it's opening. Oh, wait. Okay. Anyway, so the concept I'd like to start with is what is the difference between a home and a house? What makes us feeling home? What is the importance of the interiors? Okay, here we are. Can you see it? Okay, here we go. Okay. Oh, wait a second, the battery.
Unfortunately not, Martina.
Can you hear me?
Unfortunately not, Martina.
Can you hear me? Is it okay? I have no feedback from the program anymore.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So what I was saying is that how we define a home compared to the house. A home, it doesn't matter its size or the material is built with, is something that belongs to us, where we feel safe, comfortable. We can remove our shield that normally we wear when we are outside, no? It's a place where we are totally fine. So a lot of people in these years had decided to move into very special and particular houses that are not the regular apartments we are happy to see. So often we see that architects decide to keep the shape of a house to give the first impression of a house. Doesn't matter if the context was totally original and new and something different, like in this case, for instance. And as you will see, many others. This is, for instance, a micro house that was built and designed by Renzo Piano for students. And it is supposed to be a house that works 100% with all the functions, the base functions that we will require to a house. So, of course, you have the toilet, you have the shower, you have the kitchen, you have a sink, and you have a bed and a place where to work or study or anyway
Martina,
do what you like, your hobbies. It could be watch television, reading books, or art. And another very important aspect is the relation with the outside. So, of course, we need the natural light and we need a contact
can I
with
stop
the
you for a
exterior.
second?
Yeah, sure. So, of course, we need the natural light and we need a contact.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Can you press the share button at the bottom to share your window so we can see your screen?
Ah, okay. I thought it was already shared. Your entire screen. Share. It doesn't allow me. Share. Okay. It's not sharing the presentation. Okay. And here we are again.
Oh, there we go.
Can you actually see the presentation? Can you actually see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So as I was saying, in the last few years, starting from the last 2 decades, regular houses started to become smaller and smaller. And this has to deal with cities that became overcrowded, the higher and higher prices per square meters of real estates, and of course also the time that people can dedicate to the maintenance of the house and the expenses that they can afford in order to keep the house with everything in order, from the garden maintenance to everything that has to do with the exterior and the interiors of the house. So this is why, part of why, especially when we go closer to big cities, the houses are smaller. I don't know if you have ever seen the houses of students in big cities like Paris or London or Berlin, but normally the average of square meters are around 10 to 15. 10 to 15 square meters is basically a bedroom, a small bedroom. However, we always had small houses, as you can see in this picture, and I think that some people always got fascinated by very small and clever interiors. So in the 1997, more or less, we had the starting of the movement of tiny houses. This is an example of a tiny house. Basically, these houses are built off-grid. It means that you can move them any moment. And they give you the possibility of not buying the land where you want to build your house. You can be hosted in a garden of friends, or maybe you can even build it in your own garden and then rent the main house you have in order to raise more money and have more money, more time to dedicate it to yourself and your activities outside the job. So when we come to study this phenomenon, we have to try to understand the reasons that brought us here and especially the people that embrace this kind of lifestyle. And the movement of tiny houses doesn't only mean, or is not only referred to houses that are wooden and cute like the one you saw before, but it could also regard boats, vehicles, and many other situations, even little studios in big cities. So this is a typical interior of a tiny house, for instance, but apart the style of the building is not very different from the interiors that you can have in a tiny studio home, for instance, in those big cities that I was mentioning before. So with the technology that advanced, we started to have more possibilities, and also our interiors have been affected by this. So if before or normally someone was moving into a house according to the proximity to his work or to his family or to his university or the main activity that he was spending during the day, now we have the possibility of doing many of our activities directly online, or using a smartphone, a tablet, or whatever that can connect us to the work. So basically, it doesn't matter where I live because I'm close to everybody and I can reach every person in any moment. So our interiors are changing because we are changing the way we use our houses. The house is not the place where I come home at night, I cook my dinner, I shower, and I go to bed. It's maybe my main workplace, or maybe it's my gym, or maybe it's the vehicle that brings me around, and I change location every day because I can work from the computer, and so it doesn't really matter where I live, and I can join two passions, for instance, traveling and the work of daily life we do. So these are many possibilities because the work is becoming more flexible, and so even if we don't really work with a laptop, we can change our workplace often in our lifetime. And if we can bring our house with us, it's easier, and we don't lose that connection with that safe place that we call home. Moving out every year and changing the house keep the things quite informal. While when we are at home, it means that we have personalized the interiors and that we really feel that place as ours because we have our belongings, our things, and of course we put something of ourselves and the way we are that is 100% personal. So of course my house won't be like yours because I don't know, my passions are of course affecting my interiors. Since I don't know, I like to paint, I will have the space for painting. I like bright colors, I will have bright colors reflected into my furnitures or the walls or everything else. And this is important because we are often called to design the houses of someone else, and we want these people to feel home. So we have to leave them the freedom of personalized their spaces, because we are not always designing our own house, of course. And this is quite important when we have to design something that is, for example, this kind of campervans that everybody knows that are coming becoming on fashion, or boats or yachts, since maybe they are constructed in series, but then everybody will have to change a bit their interiors in order to feel something very personal. Otherwise, it will be like being in a hotel. And when you are in an hotel, you don't feel like home. You know that you are in a standard place that has designed for a different reason that hosts yourself in your daily life. So talking about the examples of people that decide to move into not regular houses, we have more and more examples of people that converted old vehicles, for instance, school bus or big trucks, into a house. joining the freedom of moving around with an average interior space that is often bigger than the one of a tiny studio. We have to know this trend because as interior designers, we are often the people that will be asked to draw the interiors for these people. We are the people that design the furnitures that can be used and can be adapted for this kind of projects that normally are made by the owners. But of course, they need a guide, and we are their guides. This kind of small places, the need of moving with a little home, or what we call home, has always existed. And if you want to see that in nature, we have, for instance, the snails that can be an example, bringing the shell that's their house is always with them. So in some part of the world, these kind of prototypes took place, and people is actually using them, even if sometimes it's only a provocation. But there is always the curiosity for architects and designers to draw the tiny house of the future, or anyway to draw a place that can be used for working and moving and traveling, and bringing you from a place to another, maybe from Monday to Friday, and then giving you the possibility to go back to the real home during the weekend, or the other way around. And what is important is that you have those essential functions, and that you can recognize some part of that space as a safe shell where you can feel warm and safe. You have your privacy, nobody can see you. Maybe you need to get in change your dresses. In the house, in the home, we do everything we want regardless, because we don't have the audience around, we don't have people that can see inside. And that's a feature that's very important to remember. So of course, in these years, with houses that became smaller, with the need of moving with our houses around, the concept of multifunction furniture is getting very relevant. And if we think to the brands that can give us inspiration to everybody, even not people that works with interior design, of course, IKEA, that's the most popular, or many other design brands that could be from sofa builders to furniture builders, are looking for solutions like this, because this is something that people want. And in the special case of IKEA, what is interesting is that they are more and more advertise furnitures that can assembled and built and transformed and personalized or customized by the owner. So this allowed the company to build little blocks that are always the same. They are made in series, but then what the clients decide to build with that is totally different case by case. And this is something that is a big trend now, is what we are looking for, because we cannot accept to have the same, exactly the same interiors of other people, because otherwise we are in a hotel once again, and we won't feel at home. So this is something we have to absolutely get interested and get curious to know and to understand. Something that we learned was changing this year was the higher demand of spaces for working, for instance. If I think to the houses where we grew up when we were kids, compared to, I don't know, the last 30 years, there was always a little office in the house. Normally it was the studio of the father of the family, where they were keeping the business, the family business in order. It was a dedicated room. That room, the studio room, was one of the first to disappear when the regular interiors of houses were downsizing. And that studio side was getting a spot normally into the living rooms. But when we started to have laptops instead of big computers, it even disappeared, because we can use our laptops everywhere. And then we had the need of having an office at home again, this year, for instance, when we were all called to work by home. And this is something that really happened. Many people were finding clever solution to arrange an office, a last-minute office, we can say, and these are the results. It is funny. Probably it was even comfortable, but it's not a solution that can last forever. And as interior designer, we cannot be satisfied by something like this. So what is especially what got importance, especially this year, if we think to people that had to give solution to these problems, to this new lifestyle that came up. So basically our colleagues, was to find cheap solution, easy solution to provide a space for working or for studying into houses that didn't have it. So of course we can think that a hammock or a comfortable armchair are good solutions. But when you have to spend 8 hours at the computer, maybe you want a desk or you need it. And if you look to the online catalog of IKEA, for instance, because I guess it's the most popular brand that everybody knows and everybody saw, the same kind of items were revisited and shared with interiors that were responding to these needs. So a year ago, this piece of furniture with the 4 squares that you can see here used to be a regular library or something where to keep the toys of the kids, or is one of the best sellers from IKEA is the Kallax shelf. And then with a simple hack, it can have a hidden desk that can disappear when you don't need your office and can help you to create an office space that is of course more comfortable than the kitchen island, where maybe you have also food and your kids coming around, or you are in the middle of the area of the house where other people can come and use and so disturb you. The need of having this kind of furniture is also that we maybe don't have the room for hosting a proper desk. And that's why we need something like this. Or maybe our rooms are multi-purpose. So in the place where we watch television at night, we work during the day, we have our yoga class in the afternoon, and so on. So another solution that's really taking place is the hidden office into a wardrobe. You will see many examples that come up, especially during this year, but it was, of course, already a solution for people that needed to keep that office room, even in little houses that didn't offer a proper room for that use. So we go back to the need of define what give you the sensation of being at home, even if you are not into a regular house. And this is something that human beings always did. And even the first or the oldest community of Gypsy were reflecting the features of regular houses on houses of wheels. And this picture especially can perfectly explain this. You can see that they have the window shades that are exactly like the one of the concrete houses. And they have the use of curtains that gives like decoration and provide shade and privacy in this kind of terrace. And I guess even the interiors will reflect the kind of interior of a proper house. So it's not surprising that maybe, especially in those times, they were using real beds and real furnitures where the dimension of these pieces of furniture were the same of a regular house. But then coming on in the future, this is a narrowboat. They are typical from England, or anyway, the United Kingdom. You need to define the same areas you will find in a house, but with very smaller place. And this is what happened when we started to have recreational vehicles or yachts, even for holidays. And the solutions that were designed for boats and that were also used for campervans were providing the same kind of comfort of a real house, but of course in a smaller version. The doors of a house are normally between 70 and 90 centimeters large, and on a boat we normally have 55 centimeters doors. And this is because we leave the space differently, and we have to learn this kind of little things that we maybe don't even notice, because we know that it's like that, and we don't care to think why, to readapt these kind of solutions to the future smaller houses or smaller mobile houses will design and will be built. So, for instance, in this kind of corridor, there's actually a house, and there are many in the United States, in the United Kingdom. We have the large of the boat that is never bigger than 2 meters. So if you go home tonight and you pass through a corridor, that corridor can actually be converted into a house if you were deciding to live in such kind of environment. And when you look at the division of the rooms, you can reckon that we basically have the same kind of interiors, even if smaller, of a regular house. So we have the sink, we have the shower, we have the toilet must be here. We have a space that can be used as a sofa with maybe the table, or the table can be here and can disappear. If we load the table, then maybe we have a big bed here, and then there is a sort of wardrobe side that it works like a cabin where you can have all your clothes. And this part of the living room can also turn out as a bedroom, maybe for guests. And it's not very different from what we regularly do into our houses. But if we go back to the stream version of a campervan, I haven't put photos of campervans because I think that everybody knows them. What is very important, and you can see them immediately, is storage. We always need places where to store our things, because of course we will have clothes, we will have items for cooking, we will have food, books, shoes, everything that need a space to be, and a space in a place where I'll find it later. As I said before, the natural lights is very important, but at the same we need privacy, and we need to close ourselves from the rest of the world, for instance, at night when we want to sleep without waking up with the sun in our eyes. So many solutions have been designed in these years, but these trends are not over, and of course we can go on designing even more modern, or not even necessarily modern, but anyway, clever, smarter, and in line with our needs and our times solutions. A trend that's upcoming in these years, and there is a reason that is connected to the fact of feeling at home, is the growing popularity of old vans, but also boats, that were icons of some places. They were very typical. We grew up with that scenario, with that icon as the representation of a lifestyle. For instance, the bully from Volkswagen, so this vehicle is representative for the whole category of campervans, even nowadays. And when people decide to move on this kind of vehicles, it's not surprising that they are often deciding to restore all the vehicles from the 80s, the 70s, in order to have something that they are familiar with. nowadays we are somehow recuperating. We are going back to some vintage things, or we are anyway giving space or getting fascinated by vintage items more than in the past. And this is because somehow we need the connection with something that we used to call home. So we like items that remind us the house of our grandparents or our parents, or things that we used to see when we were kids and then now disappeared. And this is because some modern or extremely futuristic interiors are sometimes quite cold, or they are all the same and they are not giving space for customization to the users. And that's why we need to put something that brings us back to our memories, or that connect us with the houses that we grew up in, and that's why redesigning things, furnitures, or even little items with the taste of the past is something that's having more and more success nowadays. And even when we talk to tiny houses, yes, of course, we could build them into containers, or we can find even lighter solution than built with wood and metal things. But I guess that the users are really looking for something that gives them the feeling of warm interiors. They don't want to feel like into a campervan or into a container. They want to feel like in a little cute house in the mountains, for instance. So there are many different styles, but they all have this kind of feature in common. There is something that we can maybe reassume with the word coziness. We are looking for a space that gives us the feeling of being comfortable and safe, and that connect us with what we knew to call home in the past, in our previous experiences, especially if we are moving out for the first time, or we are building our our family, and so we are looking for a new house that will be the house of the new family, but we want a connection with our parents that we are leaving behind in the house where we used to live. So these aspects are very important when we draw, because even if we have to do and to work with extremely luxury interiors, we have to know our users, our final clients, to understand what they may look for to feel really at home, to really appreciate the interiors and not only the beauty of a single piece of furniture. And this is very important. I don't know if you have questions, or if I have time to show you something more. Maybe go back here. You see me, I guess. I can show you a project that's something I'm working on right now, and that's connected to this idea of sharing of coming back to something we may like better than something extremely new, because it's related to our past and we can appreciate it. Of course, our culture has their own icons. So, for instance, this project I'm working with is special for, or better, is more appreciated by French, because in France, everybody grew up with this kind of vehicle that was extremely popular, and with this kind of vehicles that is called the type H, Y, they were built between the 40s till the 70s. And this vehicle was the one that every kind of activity used to have. So I don't know, the butcher was working with these kind of vehicles to bring up and down the pieces of meat, or if you had the milk that was delivered to your house, probably they were coming with this kind of vehicle, or even the post office used to use this kind of vehicles to deliver letters house door to door. And this is something that was involving more than a generation, and that now are all rusties and they barely don't move because their motors are too old. But they have been used for making food trucks, or sometimes interiors of pub or bars, because, as I said, this is truly an icon for the French. And what we reproposed with the company where I worked with is a revisitation of these vehicles. And basically, this is only a work of that involves the body kit of vehicle, and the style is the one of the past, but the vehicle is something new, is even electric. The engine is the nowadays one. And we are building also a lot of camper vans like this, because people that's deciding to move and living on camper vans nowadays, they want, especially those that don't use it for holidays, but they live there the most of the year, they want something that's a bit cuter, that's a bit familiar, that's something more particular. It's not the camper van that everybody has, but they are very few to have something like this. And this makes them feeling proud of their house, because they feel like they built something special, and they are one of the few living with that kind of, I will say vehicle, but in this case, it is truly like a house. So the house is something where we feel safe, as I said already, but also represent ourselves. So only to the very close friends and family, we are normally like to show them our house, because we want to show them like another part of us, another side of us. Our personality, our character, they normally are reflected in the interiors that we decide to build. And somehow this is something that can be reflected when we decide to move into a vehicle that, of course, has very tiny interiors and very few possibility to show something that belongs to us, that reflect our personality, that even the exteriors can get their importance to do this kind of part of the job. And so when we think to this new particularly kind of dwelling of houses, we need to consider a bit more even the past, where our users come from, and what they may expect and what they may want. And of course, we have to remember that we are not drawing our own houses, but the house of someone else, and they have to tell us how they want it. We have to understand what they can like, because we cannot draw them even the slippers to go around. They will bring inside their own clothes, their own style, and of course their interiors need to match with their lives, with their habits, and with the way they look, and they like to dress up and to go around. And this is something that can make our job more interesting and funnier. So I hope you will find this kind of curiosity when you will build and draw interiors. So I hope you will find this kind of curiosity when you will build
Yeah, Martina.
Yes.
I would like to maybe to sort of provide some sort of an insight to the new designers.
Mm-hmm. Like, you mean like interiors, to show them pictures of interiors, or
Because whenever we give them a project, they cannot fit in
Mm-hmm.
all of it. Because whenever we give them a project, they cannot fit in.
I think that there is like a delay in the in the speech because I'm feeling you twice. Okay, so I think that if we wanted to make this like an exercise, for instance, if we decide to draw something.
Here's the deal. I mean, I'm having some volume problems. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, sure. No, I hear you better.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But whenever we give projects to our students, regardless of industrial, architecture, or interior, we see that starting designing, they always find it very difficult, even with the smaller functions that we provide them. They can never fit. They're always gonna go, they want bigger space. And we have a project right now that the boundaries are very restricted and they still cannot fit. Can you sort of give an advice to our naive students that are asking for bigger plots to design?
Okay, I think that is something that as students we all did. Of course, it's easier to design something where you have less boundaries or very big boundaries, so you have all the space you want to draw. I'm sure that's difficult to draw something on the computer or even on paper without leaving the space, without feeling what it is. Because when you draw something on paper, the space looks huge or too small. And maybe it is proper, it is perfect as you need, but you won't feel it as when you are inside a building. So some techniques that can be found, I found when I was a student, very useful, were, for instance, to draw the space with tape. You get into, a big square, a big space, a parking lot, and you try to define the space where you are supposed to work with, and you walk inside. And you have to pretend to sit down, to stand up, and to move around to do the activities that your clients are supposed, your users are supposed to do in that space. Because of course, when you have a square white page, it looks tinier than it really is, or things can look bigger or tinier compared to the furnitures we choose. So you have to think if your furnitures are something that is your starting point, because, for instance, you are asked to design the interior of a museum. So the pieces of art you have to show, those are your fixing points. And you can start with the space, the volume, that those items that you cannot remove. As a starting point, you draw them around, and then you build the rest around these things, also comparing the kind of volume in order to have a sort of equity in the space. If you have to show something that is huge, maybe you want furnitures around that are not disappearing, or maybe you want them to disappear in order to show only the size of the things that you must expose. I'm thinking that, for instance, when you are called to draw campervans interiors or yacht interiors, it always looks impossible at the beginning, because you have to think that you have hidden volumes that you can use that you don't even suspect to be useful. And of course, another mistakes, or maybe we are just, it's just easier for us to use this kind of dimensions, is the one of comparing always the interiors with the size of the furniture we are happy to see and to use every day. But we have to remember that when we draw special small interiors, maybe we are not able to use furnitures that have been already designed, but we have to redesign furnitures in order to meet the interiors you're working on. For instance, when we design a boat or a campervan, we cannot think to put inside a real bed for 2 people, because maybe it's larger than the interiors itself, as the one I show you in the boat. So when you start to familiarize with those dimensions that are the one that we grew up, if you think how big is a bed, how big is a door, you always think to the door that you saw the most in your life, so the one of your house. And this can be a false friend, because of course when you are drawing an interiors, you cannot be stuck in the fact that the door must be 90 centimeters. Maybe not. Maybe you can find other solutions, and you don't have to feel afraid of exploring new solutions. The part that is the best of our job is that we can actually give solutions that we had never explored before. Or maybe we can go back to look for solutions that somehow we abandoned, but they are still the best. And so why not go back and reuse them? The campervans of the 70s and the 80s, for instance, were way smaller than the ones that we can drive nowadays and that we can see in the streets. And surprisingly, those interiors were more comfortable, and the space inside were feeling bigger and higher than those of the vehicles that we built nowadays. It looks like that nowadays we cannot make interiors for vans that are clever as the one they used to be. The fridge, for instance, of the classical camper van from Volkswagen, the picture I showed you before, is basically the size of the fridge of a regular house. And if I go to a van built nowadays, it is way smaller. And I have the double of the space, and it totally makes no sense. You have to understand which are the functions you need, and they are really your must, and which functions you don't really need to care about. And there you will find more space, because if you want to put everything everywhere, then of course you will always need more square meters than the one you have at disposition. But if you get focused on what I have to do there, what my users will really need, and how the space can guide the users understanding what they have to do there, where they have to go inside that space. There, your furnitures can also be part of the structures. It can also be part of the decoration. The interiors are like, it's not simply putting a chair in a room. There is a dialogue that must be kept between the volume of the space, the interiors, and of course, the user, because you are drawing that for human beings that have to do something in those interiors. So it must be clear what they are supposed to do there, and they need to be able to do that in a comfortable way. So I will suggest you to explore a solution of similar interiors, maybe get inspiration from the past, or try to know the best you can the solution that are existing now, so that you can really go beyond and give a solution that's more clever or more useful. In marketing science, there are 2 approaches to things. Either you promote a product that is the newest thing ever. Nobody has done something like that before. So for instance, if you think at the iPhone was the first smartphone designed like that. And it was sold to be the first of his category, the first of his generation. So it doesn't matter how it was, but his strength was to be the first. Who arrived after, they couldn't claim to be the first to have that idea. But they studied the iPhone, and they did the same, but better. And this approach to projects is called second but better. And it means that you really know what I've done before, and you fix the mistakes that were existing, and you offer a better solution. So when you draw something, you can try to remember, do you want to be the first that propose something like that? Or you want to be someone that does it perfectly, or anyway, the best way possible, starting from everything that was done before and solving those problems. And like that, you will maybe find it. I don't know. What I found nice about being a designer is that we solve problems. So you need to find which are these problems and provide solutions.
Yes, thank you, Martina. I think that our young students that are watching us are definitely going to think about this, especially it's during the final semester time.
I hope they're not afraid and they don't want to change job.
No, they probably don't want to change their designs at this point in time during their classes. But thank you very much to Martina Calegaro. I think I said that right. And we'll be hoping that you will deliver more webinars with us in the near future, and we'll share your experiences with us. And we thank you for being with us today on behalf of our Faculty of Design and Arkan University. Thank you, Martina.
Thank you for hosting, and I hope to join you very soon.
Okay, let's wait if anybody has any questions online.
Or even if they want to contact me by email, I'd be happy to provide some materials or whatever that can help with their project.
All right. Well, I guess this is the end of our communication, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
See you soon, and have a nice afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you remember how you discovered the world around you? Can you hear the beat of life? Can you hear it by seeing it and feeling with all your senses? Hey, can you still hear it? There's something in you, driving you, calling you. Calling you in closer and closer. It's happening right now. Time to free your curiosity that's always in you. Now it's time to act. This is an act of discovery. It requires looking to the world in new ways. To answer for, but we're not offering you the answers. We are here to encourage your questions, but more important than the question is how you answer it. Try the ordinary, then try the unusual. To live is learn, and to learn is to live. Live. learn. It's an endless process. This is your path. This is your journey. You decide how it's going to be. Just enjoy every moment of it. We believe in design, keeping it simple but also significant. We believe in art for looking at the world with a unique perspective. We believe in creativity for communicating better with the world. Creativity takes courage. The future belongs to the curious. Come and experience it with us in Arrowcad and discover your creative potential.